Popful Mail is an action RPG platformer from Nihon Falcom. It was originally released for the NEC PC 8801, a Japanese retro PC that's been around since the 80s, but it was later released for a variety of platforms, including mobile, Super Famicom, PC Engine CD, and Sega CD. The Sega CD version is the version we got in North America through Working Designs. Unfortunately, that version has some problems, but we'll get to that in a minute. This version of Popful Mail actually has a pretty interesting story in how it was created. The Sega CD version of Popful Mail was actually originally going to be reimagined as a spin-off of Sonic the Hedgehog called Sister Sonic, and the characters would be replaced with characters from the Sonic franchise. It even got to the point that it was announced in an issue of Beep Mega Drive, one of the big Japanese Sega magazines. It would be part of a joint venture between Falcom and Sega, with the name of the company being called Sega Falcom. For Sega and Falcom fans, that probably sounds like you stepped into Bizarro World for a second, but it's all true. There may even be a world where all your favorite Trails characters were actually hedgehogs. This may be an imperfect translation, but from what I understand, the magazine reads, "The main character is still a bounty hunter, but Sister Sonic is not a cute character, like Mail, but a more mature, older sisterly type. Expect coquettish and sexy charm, and of course the story will be written to match the characters. It will have even more action than the original, and animation and sounds will be even more perfect on CD-ROM." But, as you can imagine, Falcom fans were not happy with the reimagining, so due to the feedback that it got, it was cancelled. And that's how Victor Ireland and Working Designs got a hold of Popful Mail. Like I said earlier, there were definitely problems with that localization. The game was made significantly more difficult, and compression was added to make the game fit on the disc, but in the end, we did get Popful Mail in North America. The cool thing about games of today is you can actually play them the way they were originally intended through the Unworking Designs patch. It keeps the Working Designs localization while making the gameplay the same as the Japanese version. It's a patch you should definitely use if you play Popful Mail on PC through emulator. The general gameplay of Popful Mail is pretty straightforward. It plays out similarly to a platformer, and you move through the stages from the beginning, or at least that's how it starts. At some point, you'll start running into various characters, such as the annoying adventurer wannabe Slick. You first encounter him when he got himself stuck up in a tree, and he'll be appearing again later. You also meet the apprentice of Muttonhead, Tat. He's another character that continuously gets himself into trouble. This is a recurring theme throughout Popful Mail. Meet a character, help a character, and then later on they'll be in trouble again. It's a pretty fun cycle, to be honest. And actually, this is where you start to feel the roots of the idea of Metroidvania come into play, because you aren't only going forward through the stages. Sometimes you have to go back, depending on what happens. And you can actually, because you aren't limited. You can run back through old stages that you've already played through. It's honestly pretty impressive for a game that came out originally in 1991, 6 years before Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Now, I realize I skipped over something a little bit important. Yes, one of the antagonists is named Muttonhead. It's a theme that you'll have to get used to if you play Popful Mail. The story is a bit ridiculous and nonsensical. It plays up a lot of the different scenes in a way that feels very Saturday morning cartoon, which isn't the worst thing if you're in the kind of mood which allows you to be okay with that. But if you're not, prepare to hear this over and over.
Are we there yet?
Oh god.
I knew I should have stayed in bed.
Oh no.
Are we there yet?
Yeah, the voice acting is a sore spot in this one. Like I said, it reminds me of old cartoons from the 80s and 90s. Needless to say, this isn't going to be the greatest story ever told, but it's fun. Some of the silliness is worth a chuckle here and there. Look, it was 1991, so voice acting wasn't in a great spot. One of the things that really kept me going is the bosses. If you know anything about Falcom, is that they know how to make a tight, fun boss encounter in a way that very few other companies could, especially at that time. Bosses in Popful Mail are a lot of fun and are decently difficult too. Take this bomb-throwing boss, for example. You have to learn the pattern, and if you don't, you'll just get charged down over and over again. And as you heard earlier, you really don't want to have to hear the game over screen voiceover a bunch of times, so it's in your best interest to learn the boss pretty quick. I found going through various bosses in Popful Mail to be a big highlight, something I enjoyed quite a bit. It definitely feels a lot like an Ys game, like Wanderers from Ys, which was also a platformer and action RPG hybrid. That game came out 2 years before Popful Mail, so they probably learned a good amount from it and applied it to this game. So, we're coming back to my central question for the video. Is Popful Mail worth coming back to in 2024? And I would say it is, with some caveats. Right, you have to be willing to subject yourself to a certain amount of cringe. Working Designs is well known for creating scripts with pop culture references that are a bit silly. And Popful Mail is definitely not a super serious game to begin with, but the gameplay is actually very solid, well worth coming back to. I think a lot of people who really enjoy the current indie scene that has a good amount of Metroidvanias and action RPG platformer kind of things, similar to Symphony of the Night, will definitely appreciate Popful Mail. It would fit right in, to be honest, and probably do pretty well. The Sega CD version is probably the best version, regardless of your localization preferences in the original Japanese or North American version of those, either one. And definitely pick up the Unworking Designs patch if you're playing the North American version, because that will take away some of that ridiculous difficulty. You can try it out if you want, but it's pretty rough, to be honest. It would honestly be a good candidate for a game you could remake or remaster and put on Steam. Maybe Sega Falcom can finally get the show back on the road, and the people can finally have Sister Sonic lead the way into the future, the way it was always meant to be. Or maybe we just forget that ever was going to be a thing. Either way, thanks for watching.